Good afternoon and welcome to the June 15th, 2023 EPC meeting. At this time, I will call this meeting to order and invite Commissioner Cameron Cepeda to the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time here today, and we pray a special blessing on the EPC, everyone working for the EPC. We just ask you for their wisdom, give them wisdom, knowledge, guidance as they protect our environment that you have blessed us greatly with, and we thank you for it in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Commissioner, there are not.
Any commissioners have any removal of consent items for comment, question, or separate vote? No? All right.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Kemp and a second from Commissioner Myers. We're not actually to the approval of the consent agenda, though. Yeah, we're going to move to the first. We're going to do recognitions and proclamations.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Mom. It's a family affair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today we are pleased to recognize the annual award winner of the EPC Scholastic Environmental Merit Award. This award is presented to the student whose Hillsborough County Regional STEM project best exemplifies sound science and environmental stewardship principles. The 2023 recipient is Lydia Linares, right here. And she is joined today by her mother, Janine Tierney, and her teacher, Christina Rutledge. Lydia is a Florida native, and she is enrolled in the International Baccalaureate program at Strawberry Crest High School. She plans to go to the University of South Florida, go Bulls, to pursue a major in biomedical sciences and a career as a trauma surgeon. Lydia's project is entitled, and I'm going to let her say it into the record for you.
To what extent does the addition of bisphenol A into an aquatic environment affect the efficiency of the consumption of calcium in Halimata opuntia?
Very good. That was a mouthful and impressive. So I have to say, we've done the studies with USF before on microplastics together through grant work, so maybe Lydia will be back here again in that role as a scientist. The idea for this STEM project experiment grew from her written biology research project exploring acidification in microplastics. The method used for her experiment is entirely of her own design and explores the effect of microplastics on marine organisms. She credits Mrs. Rutledge for introducing her to the idea of working with the, I'm going to say it, algae halimata. Hopefully I got that right. Today, Lydia receives a well-earned certificate for her environmental EPC merit certificate, a tote bag featuring, let me see the beautiful tote bag. We can be Vanna White here. a beautiful tote bag featuring ocean artwork of a local artist, Amber Ray Malott, and a family of 4 membership to the Florida Aquarium. I wish to thank the Florida Aquarium. They do this annually. They support us and generally donate the membership, and this gift valued at about $185. So thank you to the aquarium. So we're going to present this to Lydia and let her and her mom and teacher make some remarks. But we're presenting this to you this day. And so she won the 43 annual Hillsborough Regional STEM Fair. And thank you for being our Environmental Merit Award winner. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I just want to start off with thanking, once again, my teacher, Miss Rutledge. She really pushed me to be greater this year. Just my pursuit in science and STEM altogether has been the result of her and her drive to see me succeed. And I also like to thank my mom, who's right here. And she's always shown her support and been so proud of me for everything that I do, no matter how big or small. So I just want to thank them both and say that this award I really do appreciate it. And this kind of work does encourage students like me to keep pursuing careers in STEM and keep trying to better our environment, even with the facilities that they do have. So I want to thank you guys for this as well.
Don't be scared, Mom.
So she said I pushed her, but the truth is having students like Lydia makes me look really good. She's amazing, she's driven, and I'm really grateful also that you guys offer these awards because it really does make it easier for me to convince kids to go and do these science fair experiments. When I say, hey, you might get a really cool, prize, and they're like, oh, okay, I'll do it, because it's hard to get them motivated sometimes in the science classroom. There's a lot of distractions in today's world. And so I'm really grateful that you offer this. As she said, it is a wonderful motivator for our kids.
Any commissioners?
Yeah, I will real quick.
Mom's good.
Did you want to, Commissioner Kemp, did I jump the gun on you? Okay. Well, first, I'm real proud of you. Strawberry Crest is in my district. I'm very proud of you. And Ms. Rutledge, I can tell that you're somebody that's invested in your students as well. And it's an honor to have you all here today. And, I'll tell you, Lydia, when I was your age, I was more into football games and having fun. It's great to know that the future is bright because of people like you. And hopefully I'll be working for you one day, I guess, huh? But seriously, congratulations and welcome to County Center. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize?
And I'd just like to also extend my congratulations. We need people who are studying microplastics in the future, which I know that you know. And thank you, teacher, for it's a tough thing being a teacher these days and just being and hanging out there. And of course, the encouragement of your mother as well. So anyway, it's a great team there. Everybody needs a village, a team. So congratulations to you all, but I am really pleased that you're looking at microplastics in particular. I can't say the rest of anything you gave as your title, but.
Commissioner Spada?
Yes, congratulations, Lydia. It's well-deserved, and thank you for being an example to many others, many of the other youth and young people out there. Thank you, and congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Awesome. We're going to grab a quick picture with the commissioners. And I just want to say, in the future, if I ever need a trauma surgeon, I hope you're the one.
I really want to take the picture.
Go ahead, I'll use your phone.
Thank you.
Let's get some of it in between. All right, I'll get one more. Excellent, thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Is one of these yours?
Yes,
That one? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
And before we proceed, Commissioner Hagan did provide a note that he had an unexpected delay and would be trying to join us via Zoom later. All right, I'll ask for approval of consent. All right, motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Myers.
I think we missed public comment, though, if we have any.
Oh, do we? I didn't receive a list. At this time, we'll welcome public comment. Is there anyone
There's no
hiding
public
over there?
comment.
All right, that will
No.
conclude public comment. Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Myers for approval of consent.
Motion carried, 6-0.
All right, thank you very much. And at this time, I will ask the executive director to proceed with our regular agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I begin, I do want to say thank you so much, Commissioner Myers, for inviting us to your Juneteenth celebrations downstairs. They were phenomenal. And we will be there Monday as well to join you in that celebration. But thank you again very much. For the regular agenda, some of the commissioners, Commissioner Myers had asked us to come and give presentations about the value of our agency and what we do. And so we've given you the water. So today we're going to give you air and waste. And so the first presentation for the public and for you as well is the Air Division Environmental Program and its services that it offers. And so Deanna Lee will be presenting that.
Hi, Ms. Lee.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Diana Lee, EPC staff, and I'm here to do an overview of the Air Division and the role it plays in protecting the environment. This is a continuation of the agency's presentations requested by Commissioner Myers. The Air Division is responsible for protecting the environment and the health and safety of the public as it relates to air quality. We achieve this through various programs which include ambient air monitoring, permitting and compliance on industrial sources, asbestos removal activities, noise, and open burn. We also conduct numerous outreach activities through the year through our Office of Sustainability. We have been delegated by the EPA and the state to regulate the various sources of air pollution in the county to ensure local, state, and federal regulations are followed. So what is air pollution and why do we regulate it? Air pollution is the contamination of air due to substances in the atmosphere that are harmful to humans, to other living beings, and to the natural environment. Vehicle emissions and industrial sources are the primary sources of human-made air pollution. So to protect the health and the welfare of the public nationwide, the Clean Air Act requires the EPA to establish national ambient air quality standards for certain pollutants based on the latest science. EPA has set air quality standards for 6 common criteria pollutants, which some of include ozone and particulate matter. The states are then required to adopt enforceable plans to achieve and maintain air quality meeting the federal air quality standards. The EPC is one of 8 local agencies that has been delegated by the state to act as their agent in regards to air pollution regulation in Hillsborough County. As a delegated air pollution program, we permit and conduct compliance inspections at pollution sources, investigate citizen complaints, conduct special studies, and collect and analyze air quality data using specialized sampling equipment located throughout Hillsborough County. In order to determine compliance with the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, EPC operates and maintains 11 air monitoring stations throughout the county. The data collected by our staff not only determines compliance with the federal air quality standards, but this data is sent to the EPA, which is used to set standards for future rulemaking. I am happy to say that we are in compliance with all the air quality standards, despite the EPA tightening those standards over the years. This is a credit not only to our agency, but also to all the stakeholders involved. The Air Citizens Response section investigates air pollution complaints, issues open burn authorizations to developers, and operates an asbestos compliance program. The section also houses one of the few local noise pollution programs in the state. We regulate noise from industrial and commercial sources through our EPC Chapter 1-10 noise pollution rule. However, there are activities that are exempt from our noise pollution rule, and these relate to agricultural activities, which include venues associated with agritourism, noise originating from residential structures, motor vehicles and their associated sources, kind of like stereos, and other events and festivities, all of which are specified in our rule. But we handle all noise complaints and that we receive in our agency, and we try to bring awareness to that situation either by contacting the offending party by either phone or a letter, or by directing the complainant to the appropriate agency. The air permitting and compliance programs regulate various sources of industrial air pollution to ensure these facilities are in compliance with the local, state, and federal regulations. Our permitted sources consist of over 200 facilities. Staff receives permit applications and issues air pollution permits to minor and major sources. Construction permits which are issued to new facilities, construction of new facilities or modifications of facilities, are given a higher priority because they correlate to growth and new job opportunities. We also conduct compliance inspections and test audits at these facilities and review numerous compliance and test reports. In addition, we investigate complaints from these facilities that tend to relate to dust, odors, visible emissions, or smoke. We also find issues of noncompliance during these inspections, and we work with facilities to resolve these issues and bring them in compliance. As an example of a stationary source leading to air quality concerns is the Gopher Resource Facility in Tampa. This facility is a secondary lead smelter operation and it's a facility that has been in operation since the 1960s. They have had air-related non-compliance issues as a result of poor operation and maintenance of their equipment and air pollution control device, which has resulted in malfunctions and breakdowns. EPC staff has conducted extensive inspections and has documented several violations. EPC has taken enforcement action and collected $250,000 in penalties, which is the highest enforcement penalty ever collected by the EPC. And we are still working with the facility on the implementation of corrective actions. There are 3 regulatory lead monitors around this facility. These monitors collect lead dust, which is then analyzed by our lab to determine compliance with the lead 3-month air standard. Currently, the facility is in compliance with the lead standard. We have information in our website that provides lead monitoring information and related news in regards to the facility's compliance with the air permit and the air regulations. In order to address citizen complaints associated with this facility, EPC, in coordination with Commissioner Meyer's office, held a community informational event with the nearby affected residents at Kinley Park in April of 2021. In this meeting, the citizens had the opportunity to ask questions and interact with government officials and EPC staff. We want to thank Commissioner Myers and the citizens who attended this event. Another example of air pollution source that can lead to air concerns is air curtain incinerators. These sources, if not operated properly, can cause significant amount of smoke and odors, and in some cases, fires. ACIs are used as a method of disposal for wood waste materials that are generated from land clearing debris. An ACI is designed to reduce particulate matter emissions through the use of a curtain of air that continually passes over and around the chamber area. Sorry. This activity is regulated either through an open burn authorization for temporary operation, which is usually for 30 days, or through a permanent stationary permit, air pollution permit, which is good for about 5 years. Currently, we have 2 ACIs that are regulated on their air pollution source. These are minor sources, and they're in compliance with their permits. If you recall, there was a recent project in north of Hillsborough County that became a project of heightened public concern based on the EPC rule under Chapter 1-2 due to the size of the operation and its proximity to the nearby citizens. EPC initiated public outreach during the permitting process, which resulted in public awareness of the project. As a result of the public's concerns, the applicant withdrew the application. The Florida Amphitheater is another example of EPC's involvement in addressing noise complaints. Between the summer of 2004 and 2007, EPC received over 400 complaints associated with this concert venue. Based on a settlement agreement between EPC and Clear Channel, a permanent noise wall was constructed to minimize the noise impact on the residents. The design and construction of the wall was approximately $2.5 million. The wall and other corrective actions resulted in a significant decrease of noise complaints. And we want to thank the Commission for their support, which allowed for us to reach a settlement and a resolution in this case. The Air Division also conducts special studies. As an example, in 2022, EPC launched the 3rd iteration of Radon and Dust Study, performed in collaboration with the Florida Department of Health, Hillsborough County Public Schools, and Mosaic Fertilizer. This is an ongoing year-long study to determine potential impacts from Mosaic's gypsum stack in Riverview, which was requested by the commissioners. Radon monitors were placed around the perimeter of the stack and at 3 nearby schools, middle schools, along with a temporary dust monitor that was installed near Progress Village Middle School. This study will help determine whether any changes have occurred as the gypsum stack continues to expand. Overall, the Tampa Bay area continues to grow, and clean air is vital in sustaining a healthy economic growth. The current population in Hillsborough County is nearly 1.5 million. By 2026, Hillsborough County's population is projected to grow more than any other county in the nation. An EPA study has found that economic welfare and growth rates are improved in areas where the air is cleaner, as there are fewer air pollution-related illnesses. EPC, as a local agency, is able to promptly address environmental concerns from the citizens and government officials, while we also undertake new challenges associated with population and economic growth. A good example of this growth can be seen in the Port of Tampa Bay, which has a significant economic impact in our area. The Port of Tampa Bay is Florida's largest and most diverse seaport and the largest economic engine in West Central Florida. There are about 20 regulated facilities that are in and around the port that operate under an air pollution permit. Clean air is essential not only for human health, but also for a thriving ecosystem and economy. In order to maintain a healthy environment and a sustainable economy, the EPC, together with all the stakeholders, play an integral part in protecting the environment and the health of the public as it relates to air quality in Hillsborough County. And we will continue to do our part in maintaining these efforts. Anyone who wants to know about the EPC or wants to register a concern, they can do so and go to our website at epchc.org, or they can call us at our main number, 627-2600. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the overview. One quick question, when we're talking about the air curtain incinerator and its burning going, do we give notice to the public that in the surrounding areas prior to the incinerator coming to a site?
Yes, when it's a new facility under 1-3, under our Chapter 1-3 and Chapter 1-2, we have notifications that the facility has to do, like putting a yellow sign. It's a pretty big yellow sign, that's the first thing. And then they also have to send letters to the nearby residents that are within a 1-mile radius.
Commissioner Owen?
I'm just curious on the noise pollution complaints that you get. You said 400 of them a year?
Those were for the Florida Amphitheater, but we do receive, the most complaints that we receive are noise complaints.
So it's like you get residential property complaints?
We get residential, we get anything related to events. Agritourism is one of the latest things that we're getting, especially also agricultural activities during the spring when farmers are doing, certain activities that create noise. We get a lot of complaints.
You bringing that up because my district? No, I'm just kidding. The reason I was curious is because you said that you'll send I call them hello letters when I'm as a lawyer. We send a hello letter, but then we have to move for injunctive relief. We have to. So do you guys do we do that? Does that get passed on, Rick? Are we the entity that would actually file a lawsuit and hopefully get attorney's fees?
Correct. If we get to that stage, we work closely with the community and the noise generating entity to try not to go to enforcement.
Sure.
But we do have that power
Gotcha.
to go to civil lawsuit if we have to.
Good. Okay. That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you very much. We all saw last week the events in the northeastern and midwestern United States where the smoke from Canada came down and created a huge air quality problem in a lot of major American cities.
That's correct.
We've never had something like that, quite like that here, but if we were, how equipped are we to alert people as to what they would do to protect themselves, and how quickly can we sort of get the word out in that type of a situation?
Well, Commissioner, thank you for that question. We do, it's the same way as we do with ozone. We do have precautionary letters that we do send out to the citizens. A lot of them are through our website. And if there's any calls, we also have the media that we can reach out to. So we have various media options to try to get the word out to alert citizens to stay indoor. Because the main issue with these fires is the smaller particulate matter PM 2.5, and that's the most dangerous to us. So you definitely want to stay indoors in those events.
I think in light of what happened, it would be smart if we made sure that the EPC was coordinating with emergency management. And we get these tests on our cell phones on a very regular basis. So I know we're aware that our emergency services are able to communicate with people very, very quickly.
Right.
And I think that these type of events that we saw, that may be something that we need to start thinking in terms of to be ready, because we learned from this that you really just never know when something like this might happen.
That's something that we can do.
Yeah. And Commissioner, let me let you know, we have 2 representatives. All of the directors have trained at the EOC. I have Dennis Jones, on the fire chief, on speed dial. So anytime we needed to use that reverse mechanism to alert the public, we could. And we have 2 representatives within our agency that train consistently throughout the year with the EOC. So, I'll make sure that Dennis Jones and I meet specifically, maybe annually, to just discuss this. Thank you.
I have one question. I don't remember which slide it was. Is it really called fugitive dust, or are you funning us?
There's definitely fugitive dust from like piles. You know, when you have a lot of land clearing that is activities going on, that's considered fugitive dust because you cannot really capture it and control it based on their volume. That's why industrial facilities, when they can vent that through a control device. So depending on the type of pollution source, then it could be considered a control or a fugitive emission.
All right, fugitive dust it is. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee.
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, I just pushed it. That's why I'm just. I really seem to be reading so much more about particulate matter and the 2.5 level. It seems like a much higher awareness more recently, and actually, when you spoke about the Canadian wildfires, I read that was one of the even in New York City, one of the big dangers, and that when you get that 2.5 particulate matter larger than that in your lungs when you breathe it in, which we do, I guess, fairly regularly if we live in any place in an urban, around an urban area, and probably any place, that, you know, it becomes embedded in your lungs. It's a permanent type of exposure. And I was wondering too, because more and more as we've controlled the exhausts from cars, I've been reading about the particulate matter 2.5 and above entering our lungs from microplastics from tires, and brake dust, and that those kinds of not exhaust from cars, but those kinds of pollution that will be with us, even if we go to electric cars or whatever. I'm just wondering what, about that, because we have to be impacted greatly by that here.
It's bringing, like you said, awareness to it, because 2.5 definitely can lodge in your lungs. But as we move, cars have catalytic converters. I think it helps reduce the pollution from PM sources. But I know vehicles that have diesel, that use diesel fuel, those are the ones that actually use, that emit more of the particulate matter in the 2.5. And as we move more to electrification, that will help reduce, I would think, significantly the emissions from particulate matter.
But the tire matter, isn't that still going to be there in the same way?
There's still going to be some, and kind of like we talked about fugitive emissions, some of that, unfortunately, I think it's just technology trying to catch up. Maybe we can make, tires, the wear and tear is much better than it used to be, but there's still going to be issues associated with that type of, generating dust from that. It's just a matter of continuing to look into it and try to address it the best we can. But I think technology is what will help us get there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna, and thank you, commissioners. These presentations are important. They are meaty and they're long, but we are trying to keep our presentations as brief as possible. But I think it's good for the public to know all of these issues and what we do. So the next one will be for the Waste Division. It's their environmental program and services, and so today we have Stephanie Wickham. She is the Waste Director. Stephanie, and great job, Deanna. You did wonderful.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Stephanie Wickham, Waste Division Director, as Janet said, and I'm pleased to be here today to talk to you, to give you an overview of the EPC's waste programs as part of our informational series on the agency. So the purpose of the Waste Division in our community is to protect Hillsborough County's soil and groundwater resources from contamination. Our program is important for the overall mission of the agency because we are protecting our groundwater, which is critical in Florida, as over 95% of our drinking water comes from the groundwater. We can really divide the Waste Division into two simple categories. We have programs that aim to prevent contamination from occurring, and we have programs that assess and clean up contamination once it does occur. We do work very hard on the compliance side to prevent contamination, because once the soil and groundwater is contaminated, it can take many years and a lot of money to actually clean it up. So this slide lists our preventative programs that I will go into more detail about in this presentation. We have a small quantity hazardous waste generator program, a storage tank compliance program, a yard trash permitting program, and we of course respond to citizen complaints throughout the county. The first program that I will go over is the small quantity generator program that inspects facilities in Hillsborough County that have the potential to generate small amounts of hazardous waste. A small amount is defined as less than 2,200 pounds of hazardous waste generated per month. Our program in Hillsborough County was established in 1990 in response to the Resource Conservation Recovery Act, or better known as RCRA, or you might know it as Cradle to Grave. We are statutorily required to reach out to at least 20% of the businesses identified annually as potential generators of hazardous waste. In Hillsborough County, we have around 16,000 of these facilities, so we're contacting over 3,000 of them on an annual basis. The EPC program partnered with the tax collector many years ago to identify these potential businesses and assess a small surcharge of around $40 to assist with paying for the cost of this program. This slide shows some of the examples of the types of businesses our staff visits. Every type of business from big box stores, automotive repair shops, nail salons, medical facilities, and even school laboratories are visited to educate them on the proper handling and disposal of hazardous wastes. Our staff goes through the processes at each facility to assist in determining if and how much hazardous waste they generate and how to properly dispose of it. Inspectors also discuss waste reduction opportunities, which we call pollution prevention, at each inspection as well. This may be as simple as a suggestion to change out a hazardous chemical that they're using to a different chemical that's not considered hazardous. This program is really about educating businesses on how to reduce the use of hazardous wastes and how to properly dispose of them when they're generated so they do not reach the environment. Here's a slide that shows you all of the great staff that work in the SQG program. We're grateful for all the work that they put in protecting the environment on a daily basis. The second preventative program I'm going to talk about today is the Storage Tank Compliance Department. This program is administered by a contract we have with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection since 1988. In fact, Hillsborough was the first local program to sign a contract with the DEP. The contract gives our agency about $450,000 annually to perform compliance inspections every 2 years, as well as installation and closure inspections of tank systems. This equates to approximately 650 inspections annually. Petroleum storage tanks can be found at a variety of different facilities, including farms, industrial parks, and office buildings with emergency generators, manufacturing facilities, automotive repair shops, theme parks, and of course, active gas stations are the most common. The inspection process checks many things that ensure the tanks are not leaking into the ground, including release detection and annual operability of certain safety features. Verification of third-party pollution liability insurance in case a leak does occur is also a part of the inspection. Part of our contract also includes performing inspections at set points during the construction phase of new tank systems to prevent leaks from occurring from the system not being installed properly. We also perform closure inspections when the tank systems are removed to ensure that contamination has not occurred, and visit sites when a discharge has occurred from a tank system to investigate how it happened, so hopefully we can prevent future discharges. Here's a picture of our staff in the Storage Tank Compliance Department. They're a group that is out in the field most of the time, and they're really part of our front line at the agency to ensure contamination is not ongoing. I'll now be moving on to the yard trash permitting and compliance. To explain the yard trash permitting and compliance program at EPC, I should first define what yard trash is according to the regulations. Yard trash is the waste from landscape maintenance or land clearing activities, including tree shrub trimmings, grass clippings, palm fronds, tree stumps, and associated rocks, soils, and clean wood. Historically, we often found this debris dumped alongside the roads or on vacant properties and other inappropriate locations. The development of yard trash processing facilities has assisted with reducing these nuisance dumpings. A yard trash processing facility is a transfer station or a facility that processes yard trash into size-reduced, usable material or compost. Most of the garden products you purchase at the big box stores, including mulch and soil, come from these facilities. The EPC started permitting yard trash processing facilities due to several fires that occurred in 1997 at a South Tampa mulching facility. The fires caused significant impacts, including shutting down roads due to the smoke from the fires. Residents and commissioners were upset that there was not a formal process to ensure these facilities are handling and storing the materials properly to minimize such occurrences. At that time, the Hillsborough County Commission tasked EPC with the development of more protective yard trash facility operation and compliance standards. The development of these standards under Chapter 1-7 EPC rules was codified in 2002. Under the current process, yard trash facilities are required to submit an application and receive approval in the form of a signed director's authorization. And that's something that Janet signs as our executive director. The review process includes things such as verification that the zoning is correct for the facility, confirmation of the materials and volumes to be stored, and the verification of an adequate fire protection plan with periodic reviews by the local fire authority. We also have the operator provide appropriate financial assurance for closure of the facility, so if the company goes out of business, there is a mechanism to close the facility and clean up the operations. In addition to the initial permit, the EPC also performs quarterly inspections at the facilities to ensure they are in compliance with the requirements in the director's authorization. The staff shown on this slide are responsible for the permit review and compliance of these facilities. So the next slide shows the locations of the 14 permitted yard trash facilities in Hillsborough County. 3 of these facilities are actually owned by Hillsborough County. The Northwest, South County, and the Falkenberg yard trash processing facilities are the county-owned sites. At this point, I'll be moving into programs in the Waste Division that address properties with existing soil and/or groundwater contamination. These programs include the Petroleum Restoration Program, the Brownfield Program, and the Old Landfill Redevelopment Program. The first 2 programs are delegated or contracted to the EPC from the DEP. The Petroleum Restoration Program was created by the Florida legislature in 1986 to address concerns that our drinking water supply was heavily contaminated with petroleum. Shortly thereafter, EPC contracted with the DEP in 1988 to manage this program in Hillsborough County, and we were the first to do so, which means the EPC has been managing this program for almost 35 years. Funding for this statewide program is provided through the Inland Protection Trust Fund that was established in 1986 that requires a tax on each barrel of petroleum produced or imported into the state. To give you some perspective on the size of this program, there have been over 2,500 reported petroleum discharges in Hillsborough County alone. To date, we've closed approximately 1,750 sites, but close to 650 sites remain in Hillsborough County that need to be cleaned up, which does not include new discharges that do continue to occur. We currently have 12 staff members in our group with diverse backgrounds in engineering, geology, and environmental science in this program. There is an environmental consultant assigned by the state to each site who is responsible for the fieldwork activities. We do frequently go out to the sites to observe the fieldwork activities, but I do want to clarify that we are not actually performing the fieldwork. Instead, we oversee the work and make sure that it's being completed properly in accordance with the regulations. All of the sites that we work on have been contaminated with petroleum or petroleum products at some point, including leaks from underground and above ground storage tanks, surface spills, and vehicular accidents. Common contaminants that we clean up are leaded and unleaded gasoline, diesel fuel, waste oil, kerosene, and jet fuel. There are a wide variety of facilities that we may be working on, including the average gas station, airports, marinas, farms, bulk fuel storage facilities, and businesses with emergency generators. Some of our sites may have been redeveloped since the discharge occurred and may now be residential, vacant, or have businesses that do not use petroleum products. So you may not necessarily understand why there's a discharge there, but there was something there historically. As you can probably imagine, cleaning up petroleum contamination can be quite costly. The average cost to clean up a site is $250,000, but it can range from tens of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars. There are a couple of different places that the money comes from. A majority of the sites we manage in Hillsborough are eligible for some sort of state funding. This can range from 100% of the cost being covered to just a small percentage. Because there are so many discharges in the state with limited funding, each site is given a priority score between 1 and 100 based upon public health risk. So with 1 being the least risk and 100 being the highest risk. We're currently working on sites that are scored 10 and above, which means we will have over 500 active sites in Hillsborough this upcoming year. The second type of discharge is called non-program, which means that the owner or person responsible for the discharge is required to pay for the assessment and cleanup of the site. This is why having pollution liability insurance is so very important at these facilities. So this map was taken from the DEP Petroleum Contamination Tracker database, and it shows the documented petroleum discharges remaining in Hillsborough County. The remaining discharges to be cleaned up are concentrated more heavily in the urban areas because these areas have historically been given a lower priority score than sites that use potable wells. Remember, the program started out working on the highest scored sites in the late 1980s, statewide, and is currently working on sites scored 10 and higher. The first stage in cleaning up a contaminated site is performing a complete site assessment with soil and groundwater samples to determine how much contamination there is and where it's located. Each assessment is very tailored to the specific site characteristics and the type of contamination. However, every assessment includes the installation of soil borings and groundwater monitoring wells to collect samples for lab analysis. The bottom right picture on this slide shows a typical core sample from a soil boring performed during the assessment. The top right picture shows a monitoring well in the process of being sampled. All of the data that we collect with these samples is compiled into a report by an environmental consultant and submitted to us for review. We work with the consultants to determine if the site is clean at that point or if there needs to be additional remedial efforts. So this is an example of a contamination plume map that you would see in a site assessment report. All of the soil boring locations and wells are labeled, and there's an estimate of the plume boundaries. The blue line represents the concentrations of 2-methyl-naphthalene, which is a common constituent, at shallow groundwater depths. And the green line shows the same contamination in deeper wells. So what this map is telling us is that as the plume gets deeper, it's actually spreading out in the formation. So once the site assessment has determined the extent of contamination, we work with the consultant to determine the next appropriate phase of cleanup at the site. So this particular slide shows a typical air sparge soil vapor extraction system that you might see at a gas station running. Usually there will be a wooden privacy fence around it, and it will be located in a less conspicuous area, probably behind the facility. It's a very common method that we use to pump air into the ground to volatilize the contamination from the groundwater or saturated soil. At that point, we have vacuum wells that extract the vapors, and we run the air through carbon before it's released. We've had a lot of success in Hillsborough County with this technology due to our highly porous sand. The hoses coming out of the trailer are for the air being pumped into the ground and for the vapors being vacuumed out for treatment. So this slide shows the inside of one of those trailers. This is where all the gauges are. that the technicians use to know if the lines are working properly and to make adjustments. So this slide shows a fairly typical shallow source removal occurring. It was likely from a surface spill because it's not very deep. The EPC visits these sites during field work to provide oversight that the work is being done properly. Once remediation is complete and the groundwater and soil at the site meet cleanup target levels, the state drafts a site rehabilitation completion order that is issued by the DEP. Our program closes on average 40 to 60 of these sites each year, which is one of the highest closure rates in the state. We have closed more than 1,750 discharges in Hillsborough since the inception of the program. So I'll now be moving on to the old landfill redevelopment program that was initiated at the EPC in 1988. A more detailed presentation of this program was provided to you recently by Ms. Nicole Garcia, whose picture is on the bottom of this slide. The EPA requested local governments to attempt to identify old landfills in their jurisdictions in the late 1980s. There are a total of 100...
Ma'am?
Before we move on to the next thing, because just we're talking about this, when you do that cleanup that you were showing, is that just for gas stations, or is that it's used for other things? And then are some of these areas, are they brownfields? Are they all brownfields, or none of them brownfields? How does that work?
Sure, good question. So the two programs do intertwine quite a bit. They are not necessarily just gas stations. We have discharges that have occurred, a tanker spill. We have farms that have tanks. We have, really these are all over places. And they can connect with the brownfields program. So a lot of times the contamination that they're cleaning up in the brownfields program is petroleum. So yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So there are a total of 178 old landfills that have been identified in Hillsborough County, and sites continue to be added every day, or not every day, but as they're found. Okay. So this map shows a visual of all the identified old landfills in Hillsborough County. The different colored markers don't really matter. They're just the way in which the landfill was identified. They all represent an old landfill. So you can see there are quite a few. This program is a collaborative effort between EPC staff and developers to responsibly develop parcels of land that have been historically used as a landfill. Staff oftentimes have pre-application meetings with potential developers to discuss the history of the site, potential barriers for redevelopment, and requirements under the director's authorization process. So hopefully everyone understands the site and we get a complete application. Staff considers many things when reviewing these applications, including structural design, landfill gas mitigation, ground cover, and the intended use of the property to protect public health as much as possible. A recent example of a successful redevelopment under this program is the Cortona South Tampa project. This site was historically used as a landfill, and debris was removed from the property before the buildings were erected as part of the plan. Before this project, the lot was not being used and had a market value of $2,500,000. The historical buried debris likely made the property not as desirable for development. Once the remediation was completed and 24 buildings for housing were constructed, the property now has a market value of almost $67 million. The last program I'm going to be discussing today is the Brownfield program that was recently presented to you by Ms. Allison Amaram at a commission meeting. EPC has delegation of this program from the DEP since 2004, and over 1,332 acres of land have been redeveloped since then. The program works collaboratively with owners and consultants before development for environmental restoration and responsible development. Each project is individualized based upon the site characteristics, contamination, and intended use of the property. This is all developed and documented in a signed BISRA, which is a brownfield site rehabilitation agreement. The assessment and closure requirements for this program are the same as the petroleum restoration program, as they both operate under the same state rule, Chapter 62-780 Florida Administrative Code. So there are many different financial benefits to redeveloping a property that is contaminated or perceived to be contaminated under the Florida Brownfield program. The FDEP provides liability protection and voluntary tax cleanup credits. The Department of Revenue allows a building materials sales tax refund, and there is also a job creation bonus tax refund. Aside from the various benefits of the Brownfields program, the most obvious benefit is taking a piece of property that was either not being used or being underutilized in a desirable area and making it useful. This benefits the community, as oftentimes these projects end up being shared spaces such as parks or affordable housing that is greatly needed in the area. From an environmental perspective, we are reusing and instead of creating urban sprawl and removing potential health risks to citizens by cleaning up contamination. The increased property value benefits the tax base in Hillsborough County as well. Currently, the EPC manages 46 brownfield sites that encompass 845 acres of land in Hillsborough County. There are also 20 designated brownfield areas that include 540 acres without a BISRA that are ready for redevelopment. The value of brownfield redevelopment in Hillsborough County is very impressive at an estimated $506 million since the EPC received delegation in 2004. Here's a map that shows the 46 brownfield projects currently being managed by the EPC. You will notice that these sites are mostly located in very developed urban neighborhoods. This brings me to the last service that I'll be talking about today, which is the citizen complaints that the division responds to. We investigate complaints in all of the departments that I've gone over today and have responded to 180 complaints annually on average for the last 5 years. We receive complaints for garbage trucks leaking on the roads, paint spills, dumping of yard trash and animal wastes, unidentified chemical drums, odors at landfills and yard trash processing facilities, as well as many different types of complaints at businesses, including painting and the use of chemicals. We work closely with the other divisions at EPC to investigate each complaint that we receive, as oftentimes it involves other issues such as water bodies or odors. A couple of examples on this slide include the top left, which was a complaint about a painting contractor washing equipment and allowing the paint to run down the street. The bottom right picture occurred when someone reported a neighbor digging up a bunch of trash when installing a pool. Many times the complaints that we respond to are outside of the EPC jurisdiction, but our staff makes sure to forward the information to the appropriate officials for proper follow-up to the citizens. To summarize my presentation today, Commissioners, the Waste Division at EPC provides many value-added benefits to the citizens of Hillsborough County. We educate so less waste is generated, which in turn protects our groundwater resources from contamination. We have a permitting process to minimize waste and nuisances. We oversee the cleanup of our groundwater. And let me say that these programs add millions to the economy in Hillsborough County by hiring local contractors and businesses. And finally, we encourage the cleanup and redevelopment of contaminated properties, which increases property values and minimizes urban sprawl. Overall, our program in the Waste Division protects the soils and groundwaters in the county to ensure clean drinking water and a safe environment for our citizens. Commissioners, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious on the, and I don't want to make you get in the weeds on this, but when you guys go out for an inspection of a gas station, and as you said, you requested their policy, I was looking at the program versus non-program. What's typical where it would be non-program? If there's, could you know that offhand, or is it?
So, you mean?
So where you'd have to go through, you'd have to exhaust your insurance policy rather than using state funds. It sounds like there's.
I believe it's a $1 million is what they're required to have, but all facilities are required to have third-party pollution liability insurance if they operate an active gas station.
Gotcha.
So that's just a fallback. If they do have a discharge, if something happens, they have a mechanism to clean it up. So as far as the cleanup costs, like I said, it could be as simple as going out and doing a few soil borings and some groundwater monitoring wells, and everything's clean. And that does happen, especially if these sites sit for any length of time. They attenuate on their own. There are biological mechanisms in the ground. They attenuate. So after a site assessment, they may have a clean site. Some sites, not so fortunate. You may have several feet of free product. It may be a difficult lithology with a lot of clay, and we have to do some very expensive technologies, and it may cost millions of dollars.
Yeah. So when you guys are out there and doing your inspection, if when you ask for their policy and if they don't have the proper coverage limits, would you shut them down for the day, or how would that work? Would you tell them, give them a certain amount of weeks to get and come? I mean, if you're dealing with Wawa and racetrack and all that, they're going to have, but I'm talking about, I like to go to the gas stations that still have the little tickers on them, where there's only two because they're mom and pops. But they may not be as in compliance as a, Wawa, racetrack, or Circle K, So I was just curious how it worked.
Yeah, so what it's called with the state is called a significant noncompliance. So they kind of rate the different violations, and that one is in the middle. It's pretty darn significant. You need to have that insurance. So they get, I believe, I don't know the exact time frame, but they get a little less time, and they need to get it to us right away. Otherwise, they go to enforcement.
Sure, yeah.
Because it is really important. These things can become so
Absolutely.
costly.
Yeah, and you hate it really being on the taxpayer dollars. You'd rather be the insurer and them having the proper policy. So that's all I had. Thank you for your presentation today. Great job.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see anybody else with questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Great job. Okay, and that moves us to the Executive Director Report. I just have a few slides, and then we'll conclude our meeting. If Mr. Weber, there you go, and just advance my slide, that would be great. Next slide, there, perfect. On Thursday, June 1st, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Region 4 Administrator Daniel Blackman and Congresswoman Kathy Castor joined with state and local officials in a press event announcing a $500,000 Brownfields Assessment Grant to the Corporation to Develop Communities of Tampa and the Sustainable Workplace Alliance of Lake Wales. I was happy to help support this worthy event, which highlighted the investment of $1 million in Brownfields job training and funds in Florida. I wish to thank the EPC Brownfields Coordinator, Allison Amram, who was on hand to address questions, because there were several questions, and also about the Hillsborough Brownfields projects during the Q&A. Thank you, Allison. Next slide, please. The Florida Strawberry Growers Association hosted their 41st Agritech Educational Seminar and Trade Show in Plant City. This was in May. I had the privilege of serving as a speaker moderator for the event. Wilton Simpson came, the Florida Agriculture Commission, and gave a recap of bills affecting the agriculture community from the recent legislative session. And I want to just give a shout out to Kenneth Parker. He has had me on this panel for 8 years, and he just does such a wonderful job out there. And I think he just got elected to be on the Strawberry board. So anyway, they do great work out there. And their economic impact is huge as well. Not as big as the port, but pretty darn big. Next slide, please. EPC staff hosted wetlands walking tours at Lettuce Lake Conservation Park in the support of American Wetlands Month, which occurs each May. Members of the public were invited to attend, and Commissioner Myers' aides Davita Franklin and Wanda West joined our staff on the tour. I would like to give a special shout out for the tour guides of Kelly Holland, Abby Weeks, Kim Tapley, and Christina Bryant for their ongoing commitment to educate the public and guests on the benefits of wetlands and for helping them discover the beautiful natural resources of EPC and what we protect. Next slide, please. Wetland staff Christina Bryant and Kelly Holland also teamed up with Hillsborough Code Enforcement and Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful and other agencies for a cleanup event held in May. I think it was May 26th at the River Tree Landing in Tampa. The event was organized by Code Enforcement Director Joe Gross, seen here, to take advantage of seasonal low waters to remove derelict bicycles, furniture, electronics, vehicle parts, and other debris from the Hillsborough River shoreline at this complex. Next slide, please. Since our last commission meeting, EPC had the great opportunity to attend several town hall gatherings held by Commissioner Myers. We were reaching residents in the greater Palm River area and university areas. These town hall events are an excellent venue to meet with residents to learn about each community's environmental concerns and discuss our services. And we go to our tables and people come to us and then we get their questions and we resolve their concerns. Next slide, please. We held our mid-year annual strategic planning meeting on June 6th. This is the time that our senior staff sets aside to focus our attention on our agency needs, our opportunities and challenges as we review our progress toward meeting our short and long-term goals. As always, we are open to your direction and input when it comes to our strategic planning process, and thank you for your continued support. Next slide, please. And finally, EPC Air Division Director Sterling Woodard was presented with the Rick Wilkins Lifetime Achievement Award by the Florida Local Environmental Resource Agencies, which is called FLARA last week. It was Sean Hamilton, who's seen there next to Sterling, is the secretary for the FDEP, and he showed up to help confer that award to Sterling as well. This award is presented, yeah, way to go, Sterling. It's a big award in the environmental community, so wonderful of him to receive it. He is in this photo, obviously, with his wife, who is an engineer in our water division. Sterling is an engineer, and they will be retiring in August together. They've worked a long career at the agency. This award is presented to individuals who have made significant contributions to the environmental field in Florida, and Sterling, you are definitely a worthy recipient for this award. Congratulations. And the next slide is Happy 4th of July. Our next meeting will be held on July 20th, but I will probably say that we will skip that meeting and then come back in August, but we will let you know well in advance. We usually wait to see if we're going to have a hearing or something like that that comes on the books. So probably within the next 10 days or so, we'll let the chairman know and he will let you know. But unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lorton. That concludes the regular agenda. Are there any future business items? None, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.